Blair, welcome to the Feminine Frequency.
I'm so excited to be here. Congratulations. This is
Thank
so
you.
amazing.
Yeah, this is amazing. I just like take a moment to take it all in and just have so much appreciation that I get to connect with such incredible leaders, incredible women, and we're all out there doing our thing, making our own, sharing our own magic. And when I met you a few years ago, we had the opportunity to have coffee together. And I think you maybe just had your first baby.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been so amazing to see your evolution. And even more recently, I've really been seeing you open more to the feminine, which when I was like, I'm coming to Austin, I gotta have her on the show. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'd love to start there for you. Like, what does that mean to you to start connecting more with your feminine energy? Like, if there's a certain aspect of the feminine that's really speaking to you right now.
Yeah. I think I would say growing up, I didn't even know anything about it. Or when I thought of the word feminine, I wouldn't say the most positive words came to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Weak or um, disempowered or unclear or emotional or crazy. And so when I thought of those words, and I was like, I didn't really understand how to resonate with that part of me. And so then in my 20s, when I was like, I don't need a man, I'm independent, I'm gonna make my own money, I can rely on myself. And then I feel like me and you maybe were in the similar feminist era.
Mm.
I was like, I'm gonna stick it to it, I don't need that. And then all of a sudden, coming into motherhood, I just all of a sudden became really aware, like, although I can make just as much money as a man, I can create and build anything that they can do. Oh, and I can have a baby. Oh, and I can not only have a baby, but I nurse that baby with this golden milk that we produce as women. And then I was like, I don't think I'm designed to do all that other stuff. I think I'm supposed to, the most powerful thing that I can do is relax and rest into the one job that I think is the most unappreciated thing on the planet is being a mother.
Mm. Yeah, what an initiation.
Yeah.
Motherhood.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's motherhood, maybe for me it was, but really the realization that what am I trying to prove and to who?
Mm.
And becoming a wife, I think the most powerful thing that I did was say I surrender all parts of me if that means that we can go further together,
Mm.
which was a very controversial thing that I had shared about, but I openly submit to my husband. There are things in our home that at the end of the day, if we're at 100% odds, if he's an absolute no to something, a big decision, and I'm an absolute yes. Let's say it's moving. Let's say it's the school that we put our daughter in. Let's say it's a big financial decision. If we are down the line 50-50, he's a yes and I'm a no, or I'm a no and he's a yes, I will give him the honor of saying, okay, I trust you. And we have that agreement because it allows me to surrender into, I would say, trust, and then also allow my husband to do what he's here to do, in my opinion, in his healthy masculine, is to provide and care for the home so I can tend to the family.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that over, history, there's been so many different evolutions of what it means to be a woman. And there's been, so many different evolutions of going from housewife to then I'm the strong, woman who works in the corporation and I'm show up as a man, in this role. And now we're kind of coming back in a different way
Yeah.
into different roles that we play, but from from an intentional place, not from this is what you should do or what it should look like. And what works for you and your husband may be different from what works for
100%.
other people. And so that's what I love, is that we get to be the conscious creators of our relationship and of our lives. And I really see you and your husband Garen doing that so beautifully. And yeah, I would love to hear some of the other pieces in your relationship. You've got so much going on. You both are very successful entrepreneurs. You're making big impacts in the world. You've got two beautiful children. You've got an incredible relationship. And I know that that doesn't happen by accident. So I'd love to start by hearing some insights from your relationship. If there's any agreements or any values that you really want to highlight that allow your relationship to continue improving, or maybe there's rituals that you guys do together that feel inspiring to share.
Yeah, one of my favorite rituals that we do is every year we pick a word for our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So people pick a word for themselves for the year or a phrase. And one of my favorite things that we do is we pick a word for our marriage. A few years ago, the word was harmony.
Mm-hmm.
And so we figured out how can we create harmony in our relationship. This year we chose sacred order. And to us, every decision comes from the alignment of our values, which is spirit, God, universe is number one, and our connection to the highest good of all.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is family. And then the last one is our mission individually. What's my mission? What's his mission? What are we individually creating?
Mm-hmm.
And so we really decided and had create intention this year that everything we do, whether it's travel, decisions, how we, the agenda of our week, our schedules really are focused around those three things. And so that's I would say the macro, the big picture.
Mm-hmm.
The micro is sacred order is every morning when we wake up, if I wake up before him and then he wakes up after, whoever is up first will go initiate our partner, and we start the morning with prayer.
Mm.
And so if he tends to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, I wake up about 6. And so as soon as he hears me in the kitchen, he will then pursue me.
Mm-hmm.
And then he pursues the prayer, which is probably my favorite thing because he hugs me, he kisses me, and then we pray together in the morning. And then the last part of sacred order is closing out the day. And again, our babies go to bed, and maybe we do things together, maybe we do things separately. But our agreement is to go to bed every night together. And that just allows us to create connection, to create, for me, an ease of my nervous system, not guessing when he's going to come to bed, when is it going to end, but also the intentionality that if it's not us together, then none of this other things really work.
Mm.
And we really got away from that, I would say last year, because our mission came first.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a purpose and it had a season. But then I kept saying, I was like, our mission, it has overstayed its welcome.
Mm.
And not that we're not pursuing those things. I would just really desire a different way in which we're pursuing our mission. Because we have a saying, and it's in the Bible, what you believe in with have you, but one can take 1,000 to flight, but two can take 10,000 to flight.
Mm.
And if I'm with Garen or if Garen's not with me, I would have a strong belief that both of us would be successful regardless,
Mm-hmm.
just by who we are in nature. However, when you take two powerful people that have a mission, but they're in collaboration, in connection, in union, in my opinion, when they have God, universe as the forefront, family connection as second, then our mission, that to me is really then how you take 10,000 to flight, how we can make a larger impact, because we are in pursuit of the highest good of ourselves, that we're here to be the best versions of ourselves, and then the world gets our overflow. Instead of being so caught up in, I would say, for us, what we have seen, that sometimes the order is reversed, which we fell accustomed to. That mission was first, and then maybe then family gets second, and then maybe relationship gets the crumbs. And this year we have not chosen not to commit that way.
Yeah, and I feel like what you shared was so true. There's different seasons for different things, and we also sometimes learn through contrast, where it's like, ooh, like, okay, some parts or some things aren't feeling great right now. What needs to shift? What needs to change? And so I love that you guys have these connection points of every year checking in on your values, on your mission. And then I really love this book ending of the day and like the beginning and the end of the day of having these intentional moments. And I think whether you're in a partnership or just on your own, to take that time with yourself, with spirit, with God, and then also to like where we put our attention is how we create our life. And so I love the intentionality in your partnership. And then I know also with parenting, I mean, this co-creation of like bringing humans into the world, and then the way that you two are choosing to parent and really setting an example of such beautiful parenting values and just this embodiment of what's possible with parenting. And so I know you're into like astrology and
Yeah.
parenting and all these really cool things. So yeah, I'd love to hear about, what you're learning through astrology about parenting. And then if there's any other insights about parenting that you're like, yes, like this is really lighting me up right now.
Yeah, so my husband had asked me a question once. He's like, if time and money was not a thing, he's like, what would you want to do? And I was like, I don't know. I just want to go to the spa. I was being funny, And I was like, and he's like, so what would you do at the spa? I was like, I don't know. I was like, maybe I would have a psychic there, and maybe I'd get an astrology reading. And he's like, okay. And he's like, so if you could pursue one thing, what would it be? And I was like, I don't know. Because I kept complaining that I didn't. I was like, yes, I wanted a hobby. I wanted something else to do. I wanted a creative outlet. And singing's not really my thing. And playing an instrument really isn't my thing. I tried it. And then so finally I got into astrology.
Mm.
And I was like, not only did I fallen in love with it for myself, but then all of a sudden I got my kids' chart read. And then I got my sister's chart read. And then I got my mom's chart read. And then all of a sudden I was like, my poor mother, if she only would have known this about me, I feel like her job would have been way easier.
Mm.
Because she had said to me over and over again, Blair, I parented you and your sister the same. And your sister was great. She always followed the rules. She never drank until she was 21. She never snuck out of the house. She was not promiscuous. And she's like, and you got expelled and were in detention and you're always in trouble and you're always the rebel. And I felt like I got so many. And then when I saw my chart, I was like, of course, we were never supposed to be parented the same.
Mm.
My sister was always going to be a rule follower. She loved structure. I defied it. And I just saw this so much compassion from my mom, and then all of a sudden it morphed into, wait, but I could do this for my kid. So when my daughter was 6 months old, I really started diving into her chart, and the first thing I noticed is that she was born and came into this planet very defiant, just very large energy, very I would say masculine energy, and was not afraid to be physically, I would say, warrior-esque.
Mm-hmm.
And here she is at 3. And we've had a couple of conversations with school because she had big kids.
Mm-hmm.
She has been very physical, somebody took a toy for her on the playground and she tackled the kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I knew this. And so then I started looking to her chart, well, what's the outlet? And I was like, oh my gosh, we need to get this kid into jujitsu.
Mm-hmm.
We need to get this kid into a lot of physical activity. This kid is going to strive doing anything that has physical strain.
Mm.
Where I would think prior to, I would say, traditional parenting or the way I was growing, I would just been reprimanded, right? I would have been punished. Versus, oh, if I know this about her astrological makeup, then how can I use that to my advantage to know what the remedy is?
Mm-hmm.
Or how can I set her up for success and channel that aggression, that intensity, that emotion so it can be productive? Then it's your superpower. Because that same kid who bit a kid on the playground and tackled some guy, I don't want her to lose that because she's going to stand up and have boundaries. But if I parent her out of that, then I don't know what could happen when someone crosses her boundary.
Mm-hmm.
Who physically touches her in a way she doesn't want to. Now, I don't want to manifest her future. And also, I want to harness that part that I believe is her superpower, just doesn't have an arena to play in or to be used or channeled.
Mm. Yeah, I'm hearing really honoring her individuality, and in this case, using astrology to really understand her more, and that there is no like one size fits all parenting style. And I feel like really that to me sets children up for being their authentic self in the world and really understanding their gifts and honing in their gifts instead of, squandering them because they don't fit into this mold of what good behavior looks like or how little girls should be, right? Like I hear
Right.
you're like, she's got that warrior energy and that needs to go somewhere. We don't want to make that go away, which
Or,
I love.
yeah, yeah. And then I've started sharing that with some of my friends, and then they'll read do readings with me with their children. So I've read their children's chart, or whether their child's 21 years old, or they have a 12-year-old, or they have a 4-year-old. And it has been so freeing to watch these mothers weep and cry, and like that makes so much sense. Oh
Mm.
my gosh, just to give her permission or to give him XYZ, to see the relief that they think it's them, that they're doing something wrong as a parent, or why don't I get them or connect with them to give them, I always call it the cheat code to their own children. And then to get the phone calls back of, oh my gosh, what has transpired in a month, in 2 months with some of these things that were uncovered or revealed. And to me, it's just such a beautiful way to have a paradigm shift in the way in which that we parent or see children, because it's just energy. And what do we do with this beautiful blueprint, and what is their karma, and what are they here to do, and what's my role in that? What's my karma in being the mother of someone with that type of energy?
Mm, yeah. If only like all parents were able to approach parenting like that, like how different would the world be?
100%. Or even life. Like, I've used it with my best friend, and I read my best friend's chart, and I was like, oh, I get why she's this, or I get why she's that. Oh, I have so much compassion now. It's just so much of a better understanding of the human being, even for my parents. So yes, the cheat code in parenting, and to me, cheat code to understand myself and all those that I'm with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And having that self-awareness as a parent is one of the biggest gifts that you can give to your children, like knowing yourself and then having the awareness around them. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that you've done a lot of work to become who you are today, like sitting here. And
Yeah.
I know some of your story, and it's really incredible, both yourself and your husband, like
Yeah.
from where you came from to where you are today. So for people who are new to your world, I'd love for you to give like a little bit of an insight. Maybe, I don't know, if we want to do like who Blair was like 10 years ago. Like
Okay.
give us a little background.
Okay, so let's flash back 10 years ago. Blair was recently out of college. She was very overweight. She was really confused. She grew up in a very, my parents were addicts, they were alcoholics, they had mental illnesses. And I grew up on a farm in northern Minnesota where most people defined success as getting a job that had insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And I never fit in. I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense to me. I always joked that I would retire at 30. My mom laughed and said, good luck. And I said, that's the only motivation I need. Watch me. And
That
then,
rebel.
yeah,
Yeah.
that rebel. And then found myself at 24 in the same spot I was when I was 14 around, then I was the addict. I was the one that was partying all the time. I was the one that was in a corporate job. I was working in a bank and so unhappy and lost. And I was like, oh, I get why people get lost in the rat race because they're supposed to do this for another 60 years. I get why they're numb, empty, escape, um, have addictions. And then I just didn't recognize myself anymore. And the first thing I said, I was like, if I could just be healthy, maybe I'll recognize myself. And then that led me down a path of health and wellness and nutrition. I was fortunate enough to create a very successful business inside of health and nutrition, which then at 30 left me in a place where my husband asked me the question of, if time or money wasn't an option, what would you want to do? Because time and money at that point wasn't necessarily something that was an everyday stress for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then that led me to this path. And I believe it's because of the amount of internal work that I never backed away from that kept opening more doors for me, whether it was doing the work of my childhood, doing the work of my own demises, doing the work of forgiving others or calling people that I had to give an apology to, that then kept leading me on not only physical health and wellness, but emotional, and spiritual health and wellness. It's the ascension ladder to me just started on the physical body
Mm-hmm.
and then led me to the spiritual plane and will continue until the end, the game that never ends.
Yeah. What an incredible journey. What an incredible journey. And yeah, it's inspiring to hear, and I know that it does take a lot of that inner work to be honest with yourself and to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I don't like what I see. I don't recognize this person, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to discover and to overcome these challenges that I've had. And so what are some of the, you talk about these like truths or maybe these lies that we tell ourselves or these things that we like, yeah, that we need to look at and we need to be able to recognize within ourselves. So what are some of those lies that you've had to look at within yourself to like really be who you are today or to overcome these stories that you used to tell yourself?
Yeah. Um, I call it the 80-20 rule,
Mm-hmm.
that I would let people in 80%, particularly my husband. I would let him in 80%, and he would get to a place that I just wouldn't let him in for the rest of the 20%.
Mm.
And he said, I said to him one day, I said, if I died, you wouldn't be okay. He's like, no, I'd be beside myself. I said, if you died or something happened to you, I would be okay. I'd be able to take care of myself financially, physically. I'd know what to do. I'd be okay. I said, I don't like that. It actually really bothers me that I would be okay.
Mm.
And I really looked at that and I said, what is it about this 20% that I won't let him in? To admit that I wouldn't be okay if I lost somebody. To tell myself that it's okay to rely on somebody else. To let someone in so close that I might lose control of my emotional well-being because I loved someone so much.
Mm.
And I really had to sit with, how can I tap into that 20% to let them in? Because that 20% to me is where unconditional love lives for the other and myself.
Mm.
Where, to me, where the most amount of happiness, joy, ecstasy in life lives. That I'm only living at 80%, and that I'm not experience what it's like to feel my fullest authentic expression of joy, happiness, not only with myself, but then to share it with another, which is my deepest desire.
Mm.
So the lie I was telling myself is that I never wanted to give that up. But I didn't, I had to really be okay with, if I go in there, I might not know what to do. I might have to ask for help. I might have to ask somebody to support me in navigating what it's like to look under the hood of Blair, and maybe help me out of some dark things that I don't want to talk about, because I thought that because I support so many others, leading in business or having my shit together all the time, speaking on stages, the way in which that people pedestal me, and then to be the one who doesn't know.
Mm.
To be that I had said that that's not okay. We don't do that. It's not who we are. We can't show people that. And then I just said, fuck it. I would rather be messy and go in there because I'm worthy of experiencing all of love.
Mm.
For myself, I want to feel what it's like to be so in love with myself.
Wow. Yeah, there's so much vulnerability in that, in truly letting people in, and especially in those messy bits. And I can so relate to that. This image, and you did have a lot put together. It's not fake that you had a lot put together, and like we're all human. And so when we, put up those barriers, or we don't really let people see all of us, and you don't have to let the whole world and everyone on the internet know
yes.
all these things.
Yeah.
But like to really let these intimate relationships fully in. And I know a lot of women really struggle with that of like, can I really, let myself be seen? Can I really give up control? Like it is scary to do that. right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'd love maybe to go a little bit one layer deeper in that of the fear of whether it's letting go of control or the fear of fully letting someone in, and if there's anything else in that process that you learned about yourself of, this maybe wall that you put up to like not fully let people in.
For sure. So I started to play this game and I said, okay, let's just pretend, Blair. Let's just pretend that you allowed yourself to fully feel what it's like to be loved. And then to fully feel yourself love another.
Mm.
Like, let's just play in the possibility. And I'm not going to tell anyone that I'm doing this game. What would I act like? What would I wear? How would I approach my husband? How would I approach myself? What would my energy be like? And I didn't want to tell anyone because I was like, what if I fucked it up? Or what if I feel that thing and then I can feel myself revert? I didn't want to know, let anyone know. But no one knew I was playing the game.
Mm.
And so I had to start playing with these, I would say, playing games with myself of letting him in.
Mm-hmm.
Then also, that then had to open up and share with my husband parts of me that I really, really did my best to hide. And for me, that number one thing is anger.
Mm.
A good friend had told me that the masculine wound is that they're not enough, and the feminine wound is that we're too much.
Mm-hmm.
And so my anger has been sometimes the thing that has ended friendships or relationships or my wedge with my family. And so I was like, if I just control this part of me and I don't let the dragon out, then people will love me. And I'll have to repress and repress and repress. And there was a part that said, I want to be allowed to be angry and like in the fullest expression. And so we met with our mentor, Deborah Silverman, who's also a great astrologer.
Mm-hmm.
But she said that Garen's greatest gift to give me is to hold my anger, to let it be fully expressed, to be the pillar that he's like literally the house, and he allows the explosion to happen within the home. My responsibility in that is that I can't explode onto.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to let my anger up and out, but I can't get it on.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to have trust that my husband was going to allow me to do this. And he had to have trust that I wasn't going to rip his head off.
Mm-hmm.
And so we started really allowing, when I could feel the anger come, allow myself to physically just get angry, like feel the anger. And it was the first time that I shared with him that I have a wiffle ball bat under our bed.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get fucking angry, I go and hit the bed as hard as I possibly can and scream into the pillow and yell and hit the bed as hard as I can. And just to like honor me, he doesn't have to come watch me.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to see me do it, but just to be like, this is her process.
Mm-hmm.
And then to trust enough that I'll come back, and please don't hold it against me.
Mm-hmm.
Please don't fear me, because I wouldn't want to get angry because I would be embarrassed when I came back.
Mm.
And so I had to really start honoring and owning. Yeah. Anger's my go-to.
Mm-hmm.
I really like it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I call it an angergasm.
Mm.
And then once the anger is out and I don't get it onto someone, I don't call him names or yell at him or physically break things, because I had done that in the past also.
Mm-hmm.
But to just say, I'm out.
Yeah.
And that's the code word that she's going to go work out. She's going to go hit the bed out with the baseball bat. She's going to go outside and throw rocks and spit on the ground and fucking scream.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's going to come back and I'm going to be like, he's going to embrace me and go, are you ready to talk? And I say, yes, I am.
Oh, so powerful. I love that you shared that. And what beautiful permission to allow yourself and to allow other women to know, like, you get to be loved in that too. It's like these parts of us that we have so much shame that we're like, oh, if this person sees this, they're not going to love me and they're going to go away. Right. And you've had past experiences where that may have happened. Right. But I love that distinction of allowing the anger to come out and up versus being projected on and directed at someone, right? It's got to go somewhere. So either we're suppressing it and we're, it's building inside of us, or it's being, projected onto someone, or it's being channeled, which is what you just shared. You're moving that energy that wants to be moved. And I would imagine that feels really liberating.
100%.
Yeah.
And took a lot of practice. Like, so for example, because people are always like, well, what do you mean when you say up and out? So I will be having a conversation and I will say, I am feeling so incredibly angry and frustrated. And I feel like I fucking want to hit something. And I just need a second. I just need to go to the room. I'm out. I need to go work out. I'm feeling, it's intense. And for him to just go, great. That's great. Like full permission. That's the up and out. It's like I'm allowed, like I'm feeling so fucking frustrated. Feel so fucking violated. It's the I feel. I'm feeling this intensity. I'm feeling this emotion versus I'm so angry at you. Why did you do this to me? You're the reason. You suck. Whatever I would do. And so we also created boundaries with my anger. So number one, Blair's never allowed to name call. I really liked to name call. I tried to find a loophole and I said, because I said, you're an asshole once. And he's like, no name calling. And I said, and then the next maybe argument, I'd be like, you're being an asshole. I was like, that's not a name call. And he's like, no loopholes or name calling of the loophole. And I was like, okay, great. So one is there's zero name calling. Number two is there's zero threat to the relationship. Why don't you just leave me? If I treat you this way, then why don't you just go? Out of bounds does not happen. Also, there is no prodding or poking on somebody else's wounds. For example, my husband has a 23-year-old daughter who he's mending a relationship with. So I can never talk about his parenting with our two children, anything about his character with his daughter, because I have used those things against him to make a point. And I would make a point because I would hurt him to get my point across. So I am never allowed to point and poke at others' wounds to get a point across. And then the last, so no name calling, no threatening the relationship, no intentionally poking on somebody else's wounds. And then the last one is to share, like my responsibility is to, if I leave, like I'm out, I have to go for a walk, I leave the house. It is my job to reinitiate the conversation.
Yeah.
Within 24 hours.
Okay, there's a time limit. Yeah, beautiful. And I love that in these boundaries, like you guys are acknowledging, like, yeah, this is a part of me. This is something that, I'm working on. This is something that is part of my experience as a human. And I want to be able to share this with you. And there also gets to be a way where it's done where it doesn't harm our relationship, right? Where it still honors our relationship. So you're being honored, the relationship's being honored. And yeah, that piece around, if you're the one asking for space or saying that you need space to feel your feels, like to come back and be the initiator. I had a hard time with that for myself in my relationship because I'm like, yeah, but I'm the one who's like feeling upset right now. Like I want you to come to me. And when I realized that, I was like, no, I get to be the one who goes and initiates connection if I've been the one who asked for space. And that's a huge one.
And then the time limit helps because then he just knows that it will come. And the powerful thing is because I have misused my anger and I've done, the boundaries are in place because I did them all wrong, right? The boundaries got put in place because I didn't do it well. And what has then happened is when he sees me being radically responsible within my anger, He goes, that to me is the most powerful thing a woman can do, is to have, she has a sword that she could slice off my head. She could burn this house down, and she has the ability to harness it and also to channel it, because that same anger, just like my daughter, has really is the same energy that created businesses, that has spoken on stages of 30,000 people. That same energy is the one that has the endless drive to have a self-pursuit of healing, of love, of forgiveness. So that same energy, maybe unbridled when channeled, to me is the change maker within me. And so again, when I see it in my daughter, and I said, oh, we just need to point it in a healthy direction, because we don't want to mute or to stuff or to tone down that energy, because it's, again, her superpower. It's my superpower if I know how to use it for good, and I know how to be radically responsible with it.
Yeah, when you said earlier about like Garen being like the house, right? And I when I think about him and you and just like the energy together, I was like, oh, he can hold that. And when you, it's a gift for you to let him hold you in that.
100%,
It's super vulnerable, and like that level of trust from both of you, I can just see how that would totally deepen that intimacy and connection and take your relationship to a whole new level.
I think it's just a higher level of respect for each other. Like I respect myself enough to have the experience to honor my anger, and I respect him enough for what it takes for him to hold it, and also to honor me in it, because he knows what I'm capable with it if I chose to channel it a different way. And so it's just, it's like, to me, it's the highest level of respect that we can give another.
Yeah, so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. I know that many women have a really hard time with anger specifically, and to hear it from you, who, you know, like you said, most people don't see that side of you. And there's many women who are walking around, going to their jobs, running businesses, and they have this little hidden shadowy part. And to hear that you're consciously working on expressing that and letting yourself be seen in that, and how that's benefited your life and your relationship, I think that's just so empowering for other women to know that.
Yeah, and I would say the last thing I'll say about it is really that Garen also has out of bound rule or out of bound words towards me.
I was wondering about that, so I'm glad you shared that. Yeah.
So yes, I have radical responsibility of what I'm not allowed to do, but in that, he's not allowed to ever tell me calm down. That is the biggest trigger word in my ever for me. You shouldn't be angry. You shouldn't get mad about this. So really for me, it's when I'm told not to get angry, and when I'm told to calm down, when I shouldn't be mad, is for all the times that I repressed that emotion, that I felt wrong for having it, to then to me not understand how to powerfully and productively use that energy, because no one taught me how to channel it. I had to learn the incorrect way. So please don't ever tell me not to feel it. Please don't ever tell me not to have it, because then to me that's to me the feminine wound, in my opinion, is that women are too much. I'm too much. You can't handle me. I'm not too much. I'm human, and I have really big feelings.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
There's permission for me here.
Yeah. And I can relate to that exact experience. You know, for me, my go-to is I have really deep sadness and like deep sensitivity. And, you know, when I was younger, it was like, well, go to your room until you can calm down, or, you know, like calm down. It's okay. You don't need to feel sad. And it's like, sure, there may be good intentions to some of that. Right. It is, you know, as someone who then you can't express it, and then it gets suppressed, and then no wonder depression was a huge part of my journey, you know? So yeah. And I'm curious with like how this piece, like with parenting your children, of, you know, what would you like, how do you pass that wisdom along while you're parenting your children when they're having big emotions? What does that look like?
Yes. So it's a nuanced question because one, it's to teach her. For us, we get to be clear, how do we support our daughter in managing rejection, managing no, managing when she doesn't get her way. So the first thing is, it's one, I would say that's one category which we respond differently, because we're supporting her with having emotional intelligence. So we parent that very differently than we parent when something breaks or daddy leaves, or when those are the first two that come to mind. So, for example, the other day, she was overly tired. She skipped her nap. She hadn't eaten all day because she was running around playing. And her friend left because they were overplaying, and she had this ginormous meltdown. And I literally just let her sit in my lap and have the meltdown and tell me that she was sad. And I said, do you want me to sit with you? And she said, no, but she was sitting in my lap. Do you want mommy to leave? She said, no. I said, what? Okay. Do you want to keep crying? No. Do you want to stop crying? No. And so we just sat there. And she just and she just cried and she screamed. Her face was red. And then she got up and she sat down. And I literally just sat there. And I just let her, I just held space for her. I modeled what my husband does for me. He just held space for me. It was totally not logical. It was very irrational. It was so over the top. It made no sense to me. It made no sense to her. So we just let the emotion move. And the craziest part is my husband's watching this whole thing. And then 5 minutes after it happened, she's like, Mommy, can we sit down and have dinner? And we sat down and we had dinner. And my husband's like, this is so wild. And then she's like, I'm going to go play. And I was like, he's like, either she's a psychopath or she's a genius. And I was like, she's a genius, because it was the first time I watched someone honor her own emotions, allow them to process, so then she could go back to be regulated without anyone telling her anything else. It just was like, could we just be in our own uncomfortableness of letting someone else process their emotions? And to me, I think why we stop it and why we shush it is because we're uncomfortable. And I was like, how can we just can we be comfortable with witnessing someone in their process?
Such a gift. Such a gift. And in order to be able to do that, we ourselves need to be regulated, and we need to be taking care of ourselves, because if you have a dysregulated partner, a dysregulated child, like, we all have our nervous systems that respond to our environment. And the more that I've done energetic and somatic work, the more I realized how much my environment and the people around me do impact my nervous system. And so another area of your work that I love is your self-care retreats and how you support women with that. And I think it's so needed. And I think maybe it can be kind of a just like a common phrase, that self-care, but it's so much deeper than that. And it's especially for mamas, I'd love for you to share a little bit about, like, how you support women in the realm of really prioritizing self-care when they've got so much going on.
Yeah. So what came to fruition is my best friend and I were in Mexico, and she was attending one of my husband's retreats. And I went to go support. And she was doing and moving all of this energy, and we were going through these processes, and I was able to witness her and hold her and see her. And then we were sitting in the back of the van in Mexico, and she looked at me and she goes, we need to bring this work to women. And so I said, yeah, because who mothers the mother? Who cares for the caretaker? Who supports the supporter? Who is the one holding for the one who always holds? And to us, we said, what that would be the greatest honor, to hold space for the space holder, to mother the mother. And that's where it all came from, was sacred self-care, is because, yes, when we think of self-care, I get my nails done, or I get my hair done, or I need to read a fantasy novel. And we go, but could you imagine that you just we're seen and acknowledged and validated.
Mm.
And we always joke, I said, if women just sat around a circle and we just acknowledged them, that would be the work.
Mm-hmm.
Or we just gave someone space to be seen. And so what we've created in these sacred self-care retreats is a duration of anywhere from 4 to 5 days, depending on the retreat. But it's all about what are we letting go of? What are we releasing? What are we holding on to that we're carrying around that might not even be ours?
Mm-hmm.
Or what if it is and we're ready to let it go? What is it that I want to call in? Who am I? And to give women space to allow themselves to think, to slow down, to be with thyself, and to open up and to have visions and thoughts and manifest and tap into and be in tune with things other than the daily to-do list of the checklist of getting the groceries and making dinner, or all of the things that they are responsible for at work or for their family or who they tend to. And to give them, allow like an emotional cleansing, to allow them to just feel and be nourished with fresh organic food, with farm to table, grass fed beef and farm fresh eggs, and to allow us to nourish them, that they just get to show up and be served for us to give to, versus, and for no reason, just because we love you.
Mm-hmm.
And for them to make requests of what they desire, to ask for things.
Mm-hmm.
And then on a final day, the culmination day of a day of complete and physical rejuvenation, where we do cold plunges and we do saunas, and we talk about juicing and cleanses and parasite cleanses, and we bring in different practitioners that talk all about different ways of hormonal health. So it really is our spiritual self, our highest self, our emotional self, our emotional body, and then we leave with our physical body, our physical vessel, so you can be in alignment with yourself before we go out into the world. How do we pay ourselves before we pay the world?
Yeah, such a healing space that you're creating. And I love this aspect of women being nourished and held and supported and seen. And it really is such a gift, because so many women are so busy and not paying attention to themselves and not slowing down to process all the different things that are happening in their life, all the things that they're holding. So I know that you have created some incredible retreats, and you have one coming up in May of 2025, I believe.
Yep, in May of 2025, we'll be going to Mexico. We'll go to Playa del Carmen, and we'll spend 4 beautiful days on a beachfront property, right on the ocean. You can literally walk out of your bungalow, you're on the beach, you're at the ocean. We did temescals and cold plunges and sound baths and yoga every day, and then opportunities again to sit with sisterhood, to create a community, to be with women who don't have to walk in your shoes to know you, to appreciate you, to have compassion for you. And then we spend a final day, very, very unique and blessed opportunity. We have a final day at my best friend Carly Brown's healing home, as she calls it, is Hope for Cancer. Carly had thyroid cancer and was able to holistically heal herself. And Hope for Cancer, they shut down the whole facility on Sundays, and they open it just for our retreat goers. I have never walked the journey with cancer, but everything there, I get to be reminded of why I take care of this physical vessel, why I get to tend to myself emotionally, physically, and spiritually, so I don't have to walk that journey. So we do IVs. It's all raw vegan food. And then the hyperbaric chambers, again, hot and cold therapy. They teach you about coffee enemas, whether you want to do one or not. But they give you that space to do that. And so it's a really, really unique opportunity for us to be able to go to Hope for Cancer. Again, you don't have to walk a healing or a cancer journey in order to go there, because it's all holistic modalities that they teach you and show you. And also, because Carly has walked that walk, a lot of women get to come to the retreats because they knew someone or they are on that journey. To go to Hope for Cancer is $40,000. And we get to go there for a day. And it's included inside of our retreat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it sounds like such an incredible experience, and I'm really excited for all the women who are going to be joining you for that journey. And for our listeners who are interested in the retreat and/or learning more about you, about parenting, about relationship, business, what's the best place for them to find you?
Yes. So the best place to find me is blair.rachel.jones. That's my Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And then my website is blairracheljones.com. And then also sacredselfcareretreat.com. So Instagram, website, or our retreat website.
Beautiful. We're going to link all of that in the show notes. Thank you so much. I feel like I could talk to you all day long. There's so many different areas that, yeah, I love learning about from you. So thank you for being here and thanks for sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you for the work that you're doing in the world.